My girlfriend confessed. I've been cheating on you for a year with your brother. I replied, I see. Then I packed their belongings into my car, drove to our parents' house during Sunday dinner, and dumped it all on the lawn. The entire family was suddenly calling me. I, 31M, thought I knew what betrayal felt like. I was wrong. 3 days ago, I came home from my engineering job to find my girlfriend sitting on our couch with her hands folded in her lap, like she was about to deliver a eulogy. The apartment felt different somehow, heavier. She'd been acting strange for weeks, but I chalked it up to work stress. We'd been together for 3 years, living together for 2. I trusted her completely. She looked up at me with those green eyes I'd fallen in love with and told me she had something to confess. My stomach dropped, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. She said she'd been sleeping with my brother for over a year. Not just a one-time mistake, a full-blown affair. Every family gathering, every holiday, every time he'd come over to watch football, they'd been planning their next meeting. I stood there holding my work bag, still in my button-down shirt, and felt something inside me go completely numb. She kept talking, explaining how it started, how sorry she was, how she never meant for it to happen. Her voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. I asked her if she was still seeing him. She nodded. I asked if they were planning to be together. She nodded again. The strangest part was how calm I felt. I set my bag down and told her I understood. She looked confused, probably expecting screaming or tears or thrown objects. Instead, I asked her to pack her things. She started to say something about us talking it through, but I explained there was nothing to discuss. She'd made her choice, and now I was making mine. While she gathered her belongings, I called in sick to work for the next day. Then I went to my brother's apartment across town. He wasn't home, but his landlord knew me. We'd helped him move in 2 years ago. I explained that my brother had asked me to grab some of his stuff for him, and the guy let me in without question. I spent the next 4 hours methodically packing everything my brother owned. Clothes, books, electronics, kitchen supplies, toiletries, even his stupid collection of vintage beer bottles. Everything went into garbage bags and boxes. The landlord helped me load it all into my pickup truck, asking if my brother was moving. I told him something like that. By the time I got home, my girlfriend had 2 suitcases and was sitting on the couch crying. She tried one more time to explain herself, to ask if we could work things out. I loaded her stuff into the truck alongside my brother's belongings and told her she should probably find somewhere to stay tonight. The next morning was Sunday. I knew exactly where my family would be. My parents have hosted Sunday dinner every week for as long as I can remember. The whole extended family shows up, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents when they were still alive. It's sacred time in our household, and everyone knows the rules. Arrive by 1 p.m., bring something to share, and don't leave without helping with dishes. My brother never missed it. Neither did I, usually. I loaded up my truck with all their belongings and drove the 20 minutes to my childhood home. The familiar ranch house sat on its corner lot with cars already lining the driveway. I could hear laughter and conversation drifting from the backyard where everyone would be gathered around Mom's patio table. I backed my truck up to the front lawn, got out, and started unloading. Box after box, bag after bag. I created neat piles on the perfectly maintained grass my father took such pride in. My brother's clothes in one pile, electronics in another. My ex-girlfriend's suitcases sat prominently near the mailbox. The vintage beer bottle collection got its own special display near the rose bushes. It took me about 15 minutes to empty the truck. By the time I finished, a small crowd had gathered at the front window. I could see faces pressing against the glass, cousins, aunts, my teenage nephew with his mouth hanging open. I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. Mom answered, flowers still on her apron from whatever dessert she'd been making. She looked past me to the lawn, then back at my face, and I watched her expression change as she connected the dots. She asked what was going on, and I told her she should probably ask her other son. The family started filtering outside. Dad came first, looking between me and the belongings scattered across his lawn like he was trying to solve a puzzle. My brother appeared from around the side of the house, beer in hand, and stopped dead when he saw his entire life displayed on the front yard. My ex-girlfriend wasn't there. Thank God for small mercies. Uncle Terry made some joke about a garage sale, but nobody laughed. The mood shifted when my brother walked closer and saw his clothes, his books, his personal items laid out like evidence at a crime scene. He looked at me with something between confusion and panic, and asked what the hell I was doing. I told him I was returning his belongings since he wouldn't be needing my apartment anymore. Then I mentioned that his girlfriend's things were there too, in case anyone was wondering about the women's suitcases. The silence that followed was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop in that suburban neighborhood. My mother's hand went to her chest, and Dad's beer can crumpled slightly in his grip. Aunt Sarah was the first to speak, asking what girlfriend. My brother started to stammer something about it being complicated, but I cut him off. I explained to the assembled family that my brother and my live-in girlfriend of 3 years had been having an affair for over a year, that they'd been using our family gatherings as opportunities to plan their meetings, that she'd confessed yesterday and they were now planning to be together officially. My teenage nephew, bless his heart, said this was better than Netflix. My brother's face went completely white. He started trying to explain, to justify, to minimize what had happened. He said it wasn't planned, that it just happened, that he never meant to hurt me. The family stood there listening to him dig his hole deeper with every word. Mom started crying quietly. Dad looked like he wanted to hit something. My aunts were whispering among themselves, and I could hear words like betrayal and family, and how could he? I picked up my truck keys and told everyone I had said what I needed to say. My brother called out to me as I walked toward my truck, asking what he was supposed to do now. I suggested he figure it out with his girlfriend, since they'd gotten pretty good at making decisions behind people's backs. Then I drove away, leaving my brother's entire life scattered across our parents' front lawn and 30 family members to process what they'd just learned. The phone call started before I even got home. Mom called first, crying and asking why I hadn't come to them earlier. She wanted to know if I was okay, if I needed anything, if I wanted to come back and talk. I told her I was fine and that I'd handled it the way I needed to handle it. Dad called next, asking if what I'd said was true. When I confirmed it, he went quiet for a long time. Then he told me he was proud of how I'd handled myself and that my brother would be hearing from him. The disappointment in his voice was unmistakable. Aunt Sarah called to tell me she'd always thought something was off about my girlfriend and that I deserved better. Uncle Terry called to ask if I needed help moving or anything practical. My cousin Jennifer called just to say that what my brother had done was unforgivable and that the family was behind me. My brother called around 8 p.m. He was angry, defensive, asking how I could humiliate him like that in front of the entire family. He said I'd made a scene, embarrassed Mom and Dad, and turned everyone against him over something that was between us. I asked him if he'd considered that when he was sleeping with my girlfriend for a year. He hung up. My ex-girlfriend called an hour later. She was staying with a friend and wanted to know how I could be so cruel. She said what we'd had was real, that she'd loved me, but that she'd fallen in love with my brother too and couldn't help her feelings. She called me heartless for exposing their relationship the way I did. I reminded her that she'd had a year to figure out her feelings before devastating mine. Then I blocked her number. Update 1. It's been a week since the lawn incident, and the fallout continues. My parents called a family meeting for Tuesday night without inviting my brother. Apparently, he'd spent Monday trying to collect his belongings from their lawn while neighbors watched and asked questions. Dad made him do it alone, wouldn't let any family members help. Mom said he looked humiliated, which was exactly what I'd hoped for. During the family meeting, my parents made it clear that what my brother had done was unacceptable. They didn't ban him from family events, but they established some new ground rules. He's no longer welcome to bring dates to family functions without explicit approval. He has to earn back trust through his actions, not his words. And he owes me a formal apology, though I haven't decided if I'm ready to hear it. The most surprising development came from my teenage nephew. He apparently posted about the whole thing on social media, calling it the most savage family drama ever witnessed. The post went viral in our small town. My brother is now locally famous as the guy who got his stuff dumped on his parents' lawn for sleeping with his brother's girlfriend. He's been getting looks at the grocery store and his gym. He called Mom crying about it, but she told him he should have thought about public humiliation before publicly betraying his brother at every family gathering for a year. I've been staying focused on work and taking care of myself. The apartment feels different without her stuff everywhere. Bigger, quieter, but also cleaner somehow. I've been sleeping better than I have in months, which probably says something about the stress I was carrying without realizing it. My brother tried to show up at my apartment Wednesday night. I didn't let him in, but we talked through the door. He kept saying he wanted to explain, that I didn't understand the whole story. I told him the story seemed pretty complete from my perspective. He betrayed his brother with the woman his brother loved, and now he had to live with the consequences. He said he loved her and that they hadn't planned for it to happen. I asked him if that was supposed to make me feel better about it. The conversation ended when I told him that loving someone doesn't excuse destroying someone else, and that if he truly loved her, he should have broken up with me before pursuing her. He went quiet after that. Update 2. 2 weeks have passed, and the drama has reached levels I never anticipated. My ex-girlfriend reached out through a mutual friend, asking if we could meet to talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. She looked terrible, like she hadn't been sleeping. She told me that things with my brother weren't working out the way she'd imagined. Apparently, the reality of their relationship was different from the excitement of the affair. Without the secrecy and forbidden nature of it, they were discovering they didn't actually have much in common. She said my brother had been distant and moody since the lawn incident, and that she was starting to realize what she'd given up. Then came the part that almost made me laugh. She asked if there was any chance we could work things out. She said she'd made a mistake, that she missed our life together, that she wanted to come home. I sat there listening to her essentially ask me to take her back after she'd spent a year cheating on me with my brother, and I felt nothing but pity for her. I told her that ship had sailed the moment she decided to betray me, that I'd moved on and built a new life without her. She started crying, saying she'd ruined everything, that she was sorry. I told her she had ruined everything, but that it was her choice to make and now she had to live with it. The real kicker came when she told me my brother had suggested she try to get back together with me. Apparently, he was having second thoughts about their relationship and thought if she went back to me, it would solve everyone's problems and maybe repair his relationship with the family. The sheer audacity of it was almost impressive. Meanwhile, my brother has become something of a pariah in our social circle. Word spread quickly in our small town about what happened. His friends have been distancing themselves, not wanting to be associated with someone who would betray family like that. His workplace knows. Apparently someone saw the social media posts, and it became office gossip. He's been struggling with the social consequences of his choices. Dad told me that my brother came by their house asking for money to help with a security deposit for a new apartment. The affair apparently started at his old place, and he can't stand living there anymore. Dad refused and told him he needed to figure out his own problems since he was old enough to make adult decisions behind people's backs. Mama's been different too. She's always been the peacemaker in the family, the one who tries to smooth over conflicts and keep everyone together. But this situation seems to have fundamentally changed how she sees my brother. She told me she keeps thinking about all the family dinners where she welcomed my girlfriend with open arms while they were both lying to everyone's face. The betrayal of her hospitality seems to hurt her almost as much as the betrayal of me. Update 3. A month has passed since everything exploded, and I'm finally ready to share the conclusion of this mess. Last week, my ex-girlfriend and my brother officially broke up. The relationship that destroyed my 3-year partnership lasted exactly 18 days after going public. Apparently, without the thrill of secrecy and the forbidden nature of their affair, they realized they had nothing substantial to build on. Who could have predicted that a relationship founded on deception wouldn't have a solid foundation? My brother called me last Saturday, asking if we could meet. His voice was different, smaller, defeated. We met at a park near our childhood home, neutral territory where we'd played as kids. He looked like he'd aged years in the past month. He told me he'd lost everything. Not just me and our relationship, but respect from our entire family, most of his friends, and his social standing in our community. He said he'd been going to therapy and was starting to understand the magnitude of what he'd done. Then he asked what he could do to fix things between us. I told him the truth, that I didn't know if our relationship could be repaired. That trust, once broken this completely, might never fully heal. That I was willing to be civil at family functions for our parents' sake, but that the close brotherhood we'd once shared was gone, and I wasn't sure it could be rebuilt. He broke down crying. Not the manipulative tears of someone trying to get their way, but the genuine grief of someone who'd finally realized what they'd lost. He said he thought about our childhood every day, about how we'd been best friends, about how he'd thrown it all away for someone who never really loved either of us. I felt something shift in that moment. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of letting go of my anger. I told him that if he was serious about making amends, he needed to focus on becoming a better person, not on winning back what he'd lost. that maybe someday we could rebuild something, but it would be different from what we'd had before. The most unexpected development came from my parents. Dad approached me after church last Sunday and told me he was proud of how I'd handled everything. He said that while my methods were unconventional, I'd stood up for myself with dignity and forced everyone to confront the truth instead of letting it fester in secret. Mom pulled me aside later and apologized for not seeing the signs, for welcoming my ex-girlfriend into our home while she was betraying me. She said watching me handle this situation had shown her strength she didn't know I possessed. As for my ex-girlfriend, I heard through mutual friends that she's moved back to her hometown and started over completely. She apparently realized that burning down her life for a fantasy wasn't worth it. I wish her well, honestly. I hope she learns from this and treats the next person better. I've been seeing a therapist myself, working through the betrayal and rebuilding my sense of trust. It's helped me understand that what happened wasn't really about me at all. It was about two people who made selfish choices and convinced themselves they were justified. I'm dating again, slowly and carefully. I've learned to trust my instincts better and to value people who demonstrate integrity through their actions, not just their words. The right person will understand why I need transparency and honesty above all else. The apartment is fully mine now, redecorated and filled with new memories. I've started hosting my own Sunday dinners occasionally, inviting the family members who supported me through this ordeal. It's smaller than Mom's gatherings, but it feels more genuine somehow. Looking back, I don't regret how I handled the situation. Yes, it was dramatic. Yes, it caused a scene. But it also forced everyone to confront the truth immediately instead of letting lies fester and spread. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for people is refuse to let them live in comfortable denial about their choices. My brother and I may never be as close as we once were, but we're slowly finding a way to coexist at family functions. He's working on himself, and I'm working on forgiveness, not for his sake, but for mine. Carrying anger is exhausting, and I'm ready to put that weight down. The whole experience taught me something valuable about consequences and accountability. For too long, I think people in our family had enabled bad behavior by smoothing things over and avoiding confrontation. My dramatic revelation forced everyone to pick sides and take a stand on what they considered acceptable. Some relationships couldn't survive the truth, but the ones that remained became stronger and more authentic. I learned who my real supporters were, and they learned they could count on me to stand up for myself and for what's right. Would I do it the same way again? Probably. Sometimes the truth needs a dramatic entrance to cut through years of comfortable lies. Sometimes people need to see the real consequences of their actions laid out on the front lawn for everyone to witness. My family still talks about that Sunday dinner, but now it's with a mixture of shock and admiration rather than just scandal. I became the person who refused to be quietly betrayed, who demanded that actions have consequences, and who showed that family loyalty works both ways. The most important thing I learned is that you can't control other people's choices, but you can absolutely control how you respond to them. I chose honesty, consequences, and self-respect. It wasn't the easy path, but it was the right one for me. And honestly, watching my brother try to collect his beer bottle collection from Mom's rose bushes while the neighbors watched was worth every uncomfortable family gathering that followed. Sometimes justice looks like perfectly arranged belongings on a suburban lawn and a family finally forced to confront the truth they'd all been avoiding. I'm doing better now. Much better.